Hello, my name is Johnny Best, and I'm going to be showing or talking about today about using bump maps. Now, I'm sure that people who are familiar with Blender would know what bump maps are, but a beginner, or at least experienced, would probably not know what bump maps are or what they do. Bump maps are used to give the appearance of a 3D texture, or give the appearance of a 2D texture, and make it look like it's 3D, just like making it pop out of the object more. So, to give an example, I will delete this default cube. I will put cursor to center, and I will add a plane. Okay, and I'll just scale this up somewhat, and just find a place where you can't see anything besides the plane. So just pressing Control Alt Numpad 0, that's good enough. Then the camera is set to whatever you're seeing, and I'll just turn the arrows off. So now what I'm going to do is just use one of the default textures in Blender to explain what I'm doing here, okay? So just go into the materials, I'll add a new material to our plane, and I'll go to the textures and just add a new one. And then I'll just keep that as clouds, and if I just turn on both, you can see the texture and you can see your object. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off color so I don't see the color. I don't want to get into much detail here. And then I'm going to see the geometry right here. The normal right here is your bump map. And if I just check that and go up here, you can see it that there's already some sort of texture looking stuff there. That is a bump map. And if I just increase that to 5, say, then it's more apparent. Now this is pretty cool. And if I just rendered this now, you can see the plane already looks like it's 3D. And whatever you do to your texture here, if you made it smaller, like say it's 0, made the depth 6 to make the noise more fine, then you would get a different result. You would get a more noisy result, a much more noisy result. So that's a bump map, and just a very quick explanation of it. So now I'm going to be showing you using images to create a bump map, and it very much helps create your texture, make your texture look a lot more realistic. So to start with, I will erase that texture right there, and I'll add a new one again. Actually, I didn't have to do that, I could have just changed it to image. Go to image or movie, and to illustrate what I'm going to do here, I'm going to be using a tile texture, okay? Go to my textures. So let's see all the tile textures I have. I don't remember which one it is. I think it's the middle one. No, maybe it's not. Certain tile texture I want to use, that one. Or maybe I'll use that one actually. That one's better quality. Okay, so this is a texture I got from CD Textures. If you are not familiar with that website, I suggest you go there because you can't do without that website if you want to get textures. So this is just a plain tile right here. It's called Tiles Plane 00575L. Alright, and I'm just going to go into the top view by pressing Numpad 7. And I'm going to go into the top view and just very quickly UV unwrap this, or UV project it onto this tile. And to see what it is looking like, if you just go right here and put it textured, you'll be able to see how big and how small your tiles would be. So we're just going to edit mode, pressing U and project from view. We'll now be able to see that there's a tile there. If I start increasing the size, you can see that that's getting bigger. I'll find a good size. Maybe that will be satisfactory. And just join those. Alright, so now that is what our tile looks like. Now, I'll keep that actually. Now just change the coordinates right here to UV. Now rather than changing the normals of this right now, I'm going to create a second texture right here, using the same image that we were using. And change that to UV. Alright, so this is going to act as our bump map. Now, so because we don't want it actually to show up, we're going to turn off color and turn on normal. Okay, so this will act as our bump map. Now, cool thing about this is that since you can't see the texture we just did right here, if I just call this bump map, not to get confused. Because you cannot see this, you can actually do a whole bunch of effects to the tile bump map without having it show up. Like, for example, if I increase this contrast to 3, it will turn this brightness down. If I just turn that brightness to like 0.6 and 3, contrast 3, then all the dark areas of this image will get even darker and make it actually look more detailed. And if I just rendered this, you can see there's a lot of detail in our tile right now. That's pretty cool. But if I showed you what it looked like without it, that bump map, if I just uncheck that, show you, as you can see, it's not even out. It looks 2D. So the bump map did a lot there, as you can see. Let's turn back on, and probably turn down that. Normal value is fine. But there's a lot of things you can do with this. Actually, I'll turn that back to 1. A lot of things you can do with the bump map, because the bump map will, as I said, make it look quite 3D. I've never experimented with this tile texture here, but with the bump map, as you can see, it looks much more realistic than what it was before. And the more contrast you put it, the more detail you'll have, because the more things are getting darker, and that's how the normal works, then the bump map works. So I'm just going to illustrate this further by moving this closer toward the tile, so you can see the extra detail. Let's move that out a little bit, actually. I'm getting too close. Oh, I didn't even go anywhere practically. Okay, so render it again. You can still see there's plenty of detail in that tile, quite a bit of detail. So that's really a bump map, and I'll illustrate it even further by doing the next thing. Now, the bump map can actually be used for a lot of different things, not just tiles and stuff. It can be used for ocean waves, tiles here. It can be used for wood, anything that we just need a slight bump map like this. So I'll just show you a different example of a bump map. If I just change this to something else, say sand, you'll just get a good result as well. If I just change that as well. There are these sort of things where you've got to not that the texture isn't that 3D. It's not, like a skyscraper. It's those sort of things which a bump map is useful for. If you want to create a skyscraper or say like a footprint, then you wouldn't want to really use a bump map, because a bump map is more creating subtle detail. Is that it? And I'll just refresh this. Didn't catch it. I'm going to switch which texture it's using. The UV projected again. I don't want to take too long on this. Okay. Just project this again. There we go. I don't want that to have multiple. I don't want it to show little boxes and stuff, so I'm just gonna do that to make sure that the box, my plane, isn't going outside of the real picture. And now, if I rendered, looks kind of plastic. I think I know why. When you're doing sand, first of all, you don't want to make your sand shiny. You can also probably turn that intensity all the way to 1. Take a different look. So there we go. That is quite nice looking sand. Better than if I turn off that texture. Probably. Anyway. As you can see, that looks quite plain, and it looks sort of like you're staring at a 2D image. So if you really want to bump up your image and make it look more realistic, as I've been saying this whole time, use the bump map. The normal right here, don't miss that. If I just turned it to something like 5, then it would make a higher bump map. It would make it look more like it was, it's not looking much like sand anymore. So if you don't want to do that, I'm just gonna turn this back to 1. So anyway, that's the bump map, and the bump map, as I said, is very, very useful at creating a realistic texture, make it look even more realistic. If you're creating something like tile or sand or wood, then a bump map is a very, very useful thing to do. Also use it for rocks too, because that will be very important. Stuff like that, stuff where it's a very simple, very subtle bump map, then you will think it will definitely be worth it to have that bump map. And the nice thing about a bump map is that it doesn't take a long time to render. It takes just as long practically as if you were rendering it normally. There's quite a big advantage over using the displace modifier. I won't get into that, but displace modifier can give similar results. So for something like creating footprints and stuff like that, displace is a better choice to do. Although displace, if you're using a displace to get realistic results, you'd have to use you have to be using a lot of stuff that would make your picture render slower. So there's the bump map. I hope that you enjoyed this. It wasn't a very long tutorial, but anyway, I hope you learn a little bit about the bump map, and I hope that you use it yourself, because it's something that you can't really go without creating realistic stuff out there. So anyway, there it is. I'm done. Goodbye.